Alrighty then. Today we're going to be going over OpenClaw, otherwise known as Moltbot, otherwise known as Claude Bot. They've had a little bit of naming issues recently because the original name, which was Claude Bot, which was launched about, I think, a week ago now, they had the lawyers from Anthropic email them and say it sounded way too close to Claude. They're not actually related. The projects are not actually related. OpenClaw is open source. And because it's open source, it's kind of like you're using it at your own risk. Because it is quite risky. That's the reason I waited. I didn't want to jump on the hype train. I didn't download it straight away. I was very reserved on the basis that in order for OpenClaw to work, you would have to ideally give it ultimate control of your computer and all the files and all your logins and passwords and all that kind of fancy stuff. So I was very hesitant. I was very resistant until I understood the security elements of it and to wait it out and find out, because I'm just like you guys. I'm learning throughout the process as well, because some of the stuff that have come out are pretty interesting in regards to it. That's why the thing that this guy, Morgan, was saying that if you don't understand it or you don't understand every single detail, be very, very cautious because it's not really ready for consumers. And if you're just getting into the tech space, it's not meant to scare you. The idea of this video is to walk you through the most comprehensive guide onto doing it safely without putting yourself at risk. It has some crazy benefits as well. So the idea of this video is to give you a solid enough guide for you to understand, especially if you're a beginner, what all these terms mean and what they ideally do, and to break them down so you can actually understand with a little bit more depth what you're doing, because I'm a firm believer that this is stuff that you're going to have to learn anyway, especially if you're going into this space. So you do have to take it slow. Here are just some horror stories and security incidents that happened. A big one was API calls. Some people were waking up with a crazy API bill. To minimize this, you can ideally just use the cheaper. You can use Gemini, or you can use, I think it's called Minimax. And just make sure that you don't give it too many tasks, or just make the task significantly small. I think this was actually quite interesting, where a security researcher found 900 Claude Bot instances exposed on the public net. So these are guys who just kind of downloaded it straight away and didn't understand the full potential risks of this. And this is the biggest reason why I chose to be very reserved in giving it too much access, or giving it any access at all. I did it in a little bit of a riskier way. However, I did install it in my local computer, but I put it in a Docker file and I put it in a container with no access to anything. So I didn't give it access to anything in my computer. I put it in a local container, isolated environment, and I could control what it accessed. So right now, it's purely local. However, it has access to nothing. It's 100% contained. And what you do ideally is you give it certain permissions. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be installing this in a virtual computer, which is a VPS. So I'm going to move it out of my local computer in an isolated environment, and we're going to move it onto a VPS. The reason I put it on my computer first, so I could understand the process and to understand exactly what it did. I did a full manual install, automatic install, and gave it all my API keys. No, I did a full manual install, gave it no access to anything on my computer, didn't give it any access to any ports. I was just very, very conservative with how I installed this. Okay. But now what we're going to do is we're going to install it in a VPS. I'm going to show you guys how to install it in a VPS using anti-gravity. This is exactly what we did. Before you install Claude Bot, stop and learn about security, and maybe Just maybe wait for Morgan. Okay. So that was a big security risk that actually came up. A lot of people were finding that their authentication tokens were leaked. And if your authentication tokens are leaked, you can give someone full access to your computer, which is risky. The thing is about Claude Bot or OpenClaw, whatever you want to call it, is giving it full access to write files and to delete files. And if anything goes totally haywire, you could lose everything in your computer. Or worst case scenario, someone could access everything in your computer and you would be in a very, very compromised position. And I know some people would be like, oh yeah, why is that so scary? Because if you run a business or anything, they could go into your social media, they could go somewhere else and they could tell someone, oh, hey, look, I need you to send me $50,000 or something like that. So that's primarily the risk. They breach your data. Well, so there's a bunch of stuff that happened, okay? Hijacking attacks by ChatGPT, custom token horror stories. So these are primarily the reasons why you want to be conservative especially when new AI hype trains come out. You kind of want to wait and just be a little bit more reserved before you do anything too drastic. Okay. All right. So what are the main takeaways out of this? First thing you have to do is you have to ensure that it's locked out in an environment. All right. You don't give it full access to all your files. You make sure that all the runways are protected and you just have to be conservative. Okay. Give it control to things that you're 100% sure that you want to give it control of, things layer by layer. I wouldn't give it access to your personal emails or anything like that. If you really want to do it in that, give it that much wiggle room, or you want it to send messages and stuff, give it its own Telegram login, WhatsApp number, its own email address. So it's in an isolated environment. So you're controlling the blast radius if you get hacked or if it gets hacked or if something goes wrong. Okay. All right. So yeah, so here's some cool stuff that it actually did. Tech entrepreneur claims that the AI built itself a face while he slept, which is creepy, but it's kind of cool. It says, okay, this is why last night while I was sleeping, my Claude Bot Henry built himself a face without me asking. He built an entire visual interface for himself so I can watch him work. Now, whenever I give him tasks, his owl body starts moving and working, which, hey, I guess it's kind of cool, but it is a little bit concerning because the good thing about it is that Claude Bot has the capability to be autonomous. So I think, I'm not sure who I saw. Is it Neil? Who said that it is a little bit of hype, which it is to some extent, but the potential of what it could get to is significantly more promising than people realize. Because you have to realize that once Metcalfe's law of adoption takes into place, where more and more people are using it, it's only going to evolve faster and it's only going to get better. And its ability to perform tasks for itself. So it runs locally on a user's hardware, such as a Mac Mini. And there's some pretty robust setups out there where you can set up a Mac Mini if you want to go that route. I think you should just, before you invest too much money into this, learn the security elements of it and be watchful and be reserved. Okay. So this is what you need to run it safely on a VPS. Okay. And let us look through this. So I'm going to be running you guys through all of this, locking down SSH, brute force protection, your private VPN network. So this is what we're going to be going through. I'm going to be providing a walkthrough for this. And we want to make sure we don't have any public SSH open, any public web ports, and the bot only responds to you. Okay. All right, we'll get started. So this is how the web interface looks like. And on the web interface, you can pretty much control everything. I will delete that WebSocket, which we can now see. Okay. Anyway, this is local, but I am most definitely going to put this on. Yeah. So as you can see, everything is blocked. I didn't give it any skills. I didn't give it any access just because I wanted to understand the little things when it comes to setting this up. Okay. So what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to give you guys everything, all of this on GitHub. And we're going to be walking through setting this up together, from getting it down locally to getting it uploaded on a VPS. All right. So set this up as a tutorial master. I will provide all of this in our school.com. So you're welcome to join through. Okay. Here we go. And we're going through phase 6. So what you can do, this is what because I did this step by step, when I go through phase 6, I'm going to copy that. And what I'm going to do is I am going to paste it in here. Like, okay, cool. So there's a couple ways you could do this. However, it's just going to walk you through this step by step. So if you want to open your terminal, you'll just go terminal, new terminal, or you can just hit control squiggly line. Is that what it's called? Oh, well. And you just follow this process all the way through. So just follow it through. It's created. Enter passphrase for empty. I'm going to enter one for security reasons. Cool. So for the ease of setup, we're just going to press enter, enter. However, you should set a password. I'm only doing this for the sake of this toot. But before we go any further, let us open a Hostinger account. So we'll just create one. Cool. So once you've created an account, which is pretty easy, it does cost, I think it's about $2. And we will set this up. Yes. Create. We'll add an SSH key. And I am going to hold that. So you need to add an SSH key and create a root password. So this just creates a password that someone needs in order for them to access it. So this is very, very important. So make sure that you do follow these steps. So just go through this and create, and you add a key and your password. I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so you're going to copy and paste the phase 6. Or you can go through the whole thing from the beginning to end on how to actually get this started. So I have already opened a Hostinger account. So you're going to need a Hostinger account. And once you get a Hostinger account, you will you're going to set up a VPS. Okay. And I'll walk you through this. We're going to set up an Ubuntu VPS. So just follow these steps pretty precisely. So what is Claude Bot? Open source framework, they ship Docker, blah, blah, blah. This is if you're setting from phase 1 up to phase 6 is an explanation of what it is. Okay. And what it can do. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then phase 6 onwards, okay, is what we're going to be doing, which is going to be setting it up on hosting and setting it up on a VPS, right? Okay. Before you do that, we'll set up the server. You will just log in, very easy login process. My closest one is Indonesia. I'm going to click Ubuntu. Next. All right. And then here, it's going to ask you to add a key, which is crucial. So what you're going to do is once you copy and paste that prompt and just say, walk me through this setup on VPS, you're just going to copy this. And we're going to paste it and blah, blah, boom. Overwrite. Yeah, because I already set one up. Good. Let's go. Cool. Blah, blah, boom. And that is done. Okay. And what you're going to do is copy your public SSH key and paste it here below description to generate the SSH key. Cool. Okay, so we've run those. What you can do is if you get stuck or you get confused, you can just take a screenshot and copy and paste it in. You can let it run stuff for you. So let's just go accept, copy. Cool. So it tells you exactly what you need to do, right? So you'll copy this whole line here. And I'm going to make sure that I must definitely delete all of this. Cool. All right. And so we'll just give it a name, Claude Bot YouTube. So we'll go. Cool. And we're just going to create a password. So create a password and you just keep going. So we'll go next. We'll Docker manager. Let's go next. We'll just go for. So I'm setting this up totally new. So let me just process this for you now. So once that's done, it's just gonna set this up. And then we'll just continue, just clicking through this slowly, step by step, until we get to the end. All right, so that's installed. Us move on. Oh, just make it easy. Screenshot. What are we doing? What are we doing here? What needs to happen from this point? Oh, so what you'll do, we'll copy that one. Put it on the terminal. Cool. Enterprise phrase. Oh, oops. If you think this is a mistake. Or if you're unsure what you're doing, just literally just copy and paste it. Cool. So you asked, cool. So now we'll go and go manage VPS. Cool. Personal reasons. Cool. There we go there. Cool. So we've already run that, which is the root. Now let's log into the server. It'll be here. Oops, sorry. Log into the server. Oh, damn it. Cool. Which I'm done. Now let's log in. Cool. Also, once you logged in, you see something like this. So what we're doing right now is we're putting our scripts in the virtual server and we're installing this OpenBot in the virtual server. Before we had it in Docker Compose, before we had it in a virtual environment, which was Docker. And this was an environment specifically in our computer with no other permissions. Remember, if you put it in locally in your computer, highly put it in a container with no permissions, just purely on the basis that you want to learn. Like I just wanted to learn. I wanted to see how everything works. So I put it in a isolated container, no permission, no access to anything. Just maybe I gave it access to an API just so I could talk to it. But other than that, beyond that, it had no access to anything else. Cool. So all of that has been installed. Now we'll go step by step. So that's the initial setup. Cool. So this is disable password login. Before we continue, make sure you have a SSH key set up, which we have already set up. You can log in with. Cool. All right. So we are going to change this. And we do have a backup copy in the server. Have you confirmed all of the above? We'll go yes. But if you're unsure, okay, before you do that, you can just copy this and type it in here. It's like explain this for the have we completed this. Cool. Beautiful. So we know that's completed. And we go, yes. Cool. And we are perfect. So in the server, the SSH, let's set up a firewall. So we'll just go here. And the firewall, again, these are all these scripts are here. Okay, so that's the firewall. This is what we would call ideally like a tunnel, a private tunnel between any of your devices, which is Tailscale. Okay, and this is all the setups. All this is going to be in the GitHub. And again, if you're unsure or you want further security measures, just ask, honestly, and it would walk you through it. So we'll create a private network, which is Tailscale. So Tailscale is like a private network or a private tunnel between your devices. And that would just mean that no one else can access your devices all the way through. Cool. All right. Beautiful. Cool. So our IP is already created. So that's our Tailscale. Follow the link it gives you to authenticate. Cool. So we should have a link. I'm going to authenticate this. See, it walks you through the exact steps on how to do this. Okay. Then we'll download Tailscale. We'll just go through this really quickly. I'll be right back. Sorry. Cool. So that is Tailscale, which is ideally like a VPN. So it's like a VPN private network tunnel between your devices. So if we go back to security, which is here, it gives us an explanation what Tailscale is. So Tailscale creates a private encrypted network between your devices, kind of like a secret tunnel that only you, your Mac, and your VPS can use, or your other devices. Okay. So we use it because that means our dashboard isn't going to be accessible from the public internet. Only our devices will be able to access it, no one else. Okay. And in layman's terms, if something explodes, how much damage will it do? We design security so that if Claude Bot is compromised, attacker can't get into your laptop, no one can access your files. It only sees Claude Bot workspace. So no emails are connected. What I would recommend is to create an email address specifically for it. If you want to do that, it's totally up to you. So we've built a firewall, we've built a secure shell, and it's now running on a virtual private server. Okay, which is pretty cool, pretty important. How I started is I downloaded it locally first, gave it no permission, so I could understand and I could see what it actually is with a little bit of a deeper understanding. And then once this is finished, it's going to be a full delete of my local desktop. A lot of people are recommending that you don't install it locally on your desktop. I think that for the sake of understanding and learning exactly what you're doing and exactly what permissions you're giving it and how to fully set it up, I think it is of value to do it locally without just put it in a container. So ask Claude or whatever AI that you're using to put it in a secure container that doesn't give it access to the internet or doesn't give it much access outside of maybe like the API of the LLM that you want to use. Okay, so we're pretty much almost there. So we have our Tailscale installed on Mac now, which is like a private server, a private VPN. Okay, and we move on to the next one. So the private network is already connected. Now we install OpenClaw. So copy and paste that. We should run this as a cool. So I want to make sure that we actually authenticate it. It tells you the exact setup. So I just copied and pasted this manual setup because again, I'm just like you guys. I'm just trying to be as cautious as possible and setting all of these up. So this is what it's telling us. So we'll go here. Where are we? So we need to log in and authenticate it first. I'm just going to log in. All right, so we're authenticated, create a new account. We're going to give the script to Claude Bot. We need to move the install script so new user can't touch it. Cool. So copy that. Cool. Now and switch. So SU, okay, SU is sudo. Okay, so sudo commands, you're not giving it administrator permissions or full administrative command. So we'll go SU and here you go. And here we are. Cool. So it says it's meant to give me a dashboard URL. But I do not see a dashboard URL. So we're going to copy and we're going to paste that. Cool. Let's go here. So that is now installing. So the beautiful thing about this is it is probably as secure, pretty secure. You're not giving any access to anyone. Now you just plug in like your Telegram, your WhatsApp, wherever you want to plug in, and you'll be able to converse with it and get it to do tasks. You have to be pretty careful of you have to be pretty careful of, what am I trying to say here? Cool. Here we go. So the problem here of the API costs, sorry. You have to be pretty careful of the API costs. So that we threw away, we cannot use sudo have npm install trust to install the system folder by default. So cool. So we've got to have to run these because, so we go here and go here. And the cool thing is it literally walks you through every single thing that you should do. And you should be able to. Cool. So that is all good to go. And there you go. You now have Moltbot, Claude Bot, OpenClaw working. Do like, subscribe, and jump onto aschool.com if you want to learn how to set this up. The next video is going to be about how to actually use it. So yeah, I'll see you guys soon.